Hi, I'm Robert.
And I'm John, and we're the Generation X-Men.
I was doing the same thing. I love that. Beautiful. How you doing, brother?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. I know you had a busy night last night.
Had a busy night, and then about an hour before this show, power goes boom. So I wasn't supposed to get it back till 3:30, but
whoa, wow, look at that. And then I did do it right. I did set it a half hour later. So good. I was worried. I'm like, dude, you can't miss our show.
Oh, yes, I can. Watch this.
Yeah, I know. All right, let's get on with our guest. It should be a good, interesting conversation. This gentleman has been on the Nerdy Collective. He was on last night. Good buddy of mine as well. We talk about a lot of different subjects. Mostly the stuff that's going on in the society nobody really likes to talk about. And I figured there would be a perfect opportunity to meet him, let him introduce himself. He's a Generation X-Men just like us, John.
Very cool. Let's get him on here.
Boom. Voila! Sorry.
How long are you gonna do this?
I didn't change it. I didn't change it. That's from my other show. That's the Nerdy Collective. John supports it, so that's what I was doing. Sorry
How
about
many
that.
are we doing?
Sorry about that. But I had to do his intro because it's totally Chris, and we both all like the Matrix movie. All three of us love the Matrix movie. Welcome, Chris. How you doing, brother?
Thank you. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here, gents. It's a privilege to be here with you. And I'm proud to be a Generation X man. I feel like a superhero.
Beautiful.
Because at least we're not in one of the ones after it, right?
Oh my goodness. So today I thought we would talk about what we'd want to talk about. But first, before we do that, because this is new on this show, and you're one of our guests, one of our many guests that will show up on the show. Tell the people about yourself, Chris, what you do on your YouTube channel, and what you're trying to provide to the world at large.
Okay. Well, I've been a chef for my job, not who I am, but my job. Yep. I've been a chef for 35 years. Started when I was 15, and in next month it'll be 35 years. I'll be 50 next month. I started my YouTube channel about coming up to 2 years ago, and I wanted to just discuss subjects that are in the public consciousness, talk about things that I'm told I'm not allowed to talk about, because the problem in our society is that we're being told that there are certain subjects that you can't discuss, that there's certain questions you can't ask, and there's certain facts that are settled and you can't question those. And I don't like that. I don't like being told what to think or how to think. So I like to raise start conversations about those kind of subjects that are going to possibly be triggers for people, and explain a different viewpoint, a different way, a different perception of the way that I see the world. We all have our different perception of the world, and there's so many people who tell us that we're wrong. But how can your perception be wrong when your perception is your perception? We did something this morning where I showed a number, on the screen. It was
that was interesting. Watch, John. This is funny, and everybody was kind of like, "What?" So you can see that.
So let's see if I can
back it up a little bit. There you go. Right there. Stop.
Okay. You see that number?
Mm-hmm.
Turn it.
Okay. Now imagine the page is flat like that. Okay.
Right.
So you see that number there?
Yeah.
You see it? Okay.
Don't move.
Okay.
Right there.
You see the number? Now imagine that page is flat and you're looking at it that way. What does that number say to you?
It would say 9 to me.
9 to me.
But to me, it's 6.
Right.
So from your perception, it's 9. And my perception, it's 6. Whose perception is correct and whose is incorrect?
Right.
And that's the whole point. And it's just because we have different perceptions of the same event or the same events that are happening in the world, we have different perceptions. It doesn't mean that we're wrong. It doesn't mean one person is right and another person is wrong. It's a different experience based on your experience and your life experience, or the prism of your experiences of your whole life has led you to the understanding of the world that you have. So I want to project that out into the world, because our public consciousness is shaped by the things that we come into contact with, the media, politicians, science, all these different perceptions are told to us that this is reality and this is how things are. But from your perception is different, and we need to share our perception, because our collective perceptions make up the reality we experience. So that's why I talk about the things that I talk about, even in the face of huge criticism and many times.
I've been following you for 2 years, Chris, and I really have enjoyed it. And I haven't agreed with everything you've said, but you know what? You put it out there. And the biggest thing I love too is you always say this: question everything. That's something I've always have said. Question everything. And if you're not sure, before you start judging something, research it yourself and look at the truth. It's right there.
Well, and look at the source that it comes from.
That's exactly right.
Exactly. And that's the thing.
Follow the money.
Well, the money's one thing, but it is also, we're being socially engineered. Everything about our experience is social engineering. There's think tanks and non-governmental organizations that are shaping our public perception through what they project in the media, through movies, through music, through everything that comes in our perception, billboards. It's all designed to alter our perception of reality. What is a woman?
Oh my goodness.
I see, and I don't see the difficult part with that question. If you can give birth,
yeah,
you're a woman.
Yeah, you're female.
If you can't, well, and even that gets a little gray. I mean, because some women can't give birth. If you had the potential, to give birth at some time in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing, when I was growing up, we're older than the average. We're the Generation X's. We've had a lifetime of experience to get us to this understanding of perception of where we are. But now the youngsters, my daughters and my children, my grandchildren, are growing up in a world where nothing is, there's no reality anymore, and they're being told that boys can be girls and girls can be boys. And look, I've got no issue. I have no issue whatsoever with people who want to dress as a woman, who want to live that way. I don't care. What they do with their life is up to them. I don't really mind. But
don't
it's
push it in my face.
That's yours. Don't expect me to adopt your reality. If you don't want to adopt mine, then don't expect me to adopt yours.
Right.
And we can, if we just accept that we think differently, we want to live differently, then that we're going to get along just fine. But if you push me, then I'm going to push back even harder.
Right.
And that's one thing I liked about what you said too. And last night, especially on the Nerdy Collective, Chris, you had Martin asked you a question, and I found it really, really interesting about homeschooling. And it's like, why don't people see that? And I really liked that whole perception of what you were talking about, the homeschooling for your kids. When you were talking about the new school that they've got, that's been only around for like 100 years, but what they actually teach the kids. Our education system here has been getting pretty messed up as of recently. They don't even do calligraphy anymore. And you ask them,
You mean cursive?
Cursive. Yeah. Calligraphy. Yeah. Well, I better. Oh, okay.
No,
I better.
That is different. But,
when I was in school, it was called running writing. Yeah.
Running writing. Exactly.
Yeah.
None of my kids can do cursive, and my oldest is 26.
Yeah.
So, they cut cursive out a long time ago. So all they know how to do is print.
No one writes letters anymore either.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, that's true, but they're like, well, they teach us how to sign our name.
Yeah.
Well, you need to know how to write it.
Yeah.
Because one day you might have to read it.
Yeah.
And cursive is different. I mean, if I look at my stepfather's cursive, I still have to decipher that mess.
Well, my father's writing was absolutely impeccable. My father was in the Air Force. He was in for 20 years. My mum was in for 10 years. He was in Vietnam, and he was just like, if he did things, it had to be just so, and he didn't want it to be any other way. It had to be just so.
Sounds like my dad, Air Force.
Yeah,
35 years. Yep.
Yeah, and his writing was absolutely perfect. I mean, mine looks like a chicken's just walked in some ink and walked over a page. I mean, my writing is terrible. It is shocking. But it's I put it down to my brain works at 400 miles an hour and my hand can't keep up with it. It's just like
sounds like G-Man. Yeah, total squirrel at the moments. Nope.
Yeah, it is. I know how I work. I know how I operate. I see the world. I have to slow myself down because the world doesn't operate at my speed. I don't sleep much. I work a lot.
Right.
And I try and cram so much into my day because I have to sort of slow myself down, because otherwise I get so frustrated with the world. It doesn't move at the pace that I move at. So it's
Well, Chris, I appreciate you being here. It's been a long night for you, long day for you.
Oh, it's I'm primed. I'm just hitting my second win now.
All right. So, what's some of the besides the 80 million genders? What's some of the other problems that are facing you across the pond that are also facing us here?
Right.
Well, I just see. I've talked about it No end. The biggest problem I see in the world right now is the creation of money. How money is created, because
well, you just print it.
They just print it. But there's two.
We're talking about this last night, John. It's awesome. Yeah.
There's two mechanisms that money is created by. Okay, so you have the central banks. They create money, and then they sell that to the government. They buy bonds from the government. So the government creates bonds, and then the central bank buys those with cash. That way, the cash is created to buy government bonds, and then the government bonds are sold to back up the cash being created. Right. So that's the first mechanism of creating money. And they can create as much as they want. It's an open checkbook. Okay. Mm-hmm. That is then created with interest attached to it. Okay. So it costs them nothing to create it, but now they want, so for every dollar that they produce, they want $1.10 back. Where does the 10 cents come from?
Probably taxes.
No, that's the thing. If you've only printed $1 trillion into existence, and they want 1.2 trillion, where does the 0.2 trillion come from?
Where does it come from?
Well, that's the whole point. They haven't created it, so they have to create it to borrow it to pay back the interest on the loan. Okay, so that's the first way that money is created. The second way is the high street banks. So the high street banks is something called fractional reserve lending. So fractional reserve is if you own a bank and you have your customers deposit money into your bank, it's no longer the customer's money. It shows up on the bank's balance sheet.
It's true.
So if you've got $1 million that's put into the bank, then that bank can then lend out 90%. So they have to hold 10% of the deposits for the customers. So 90% can be lent out in loans, which is also interest bearing. Okay, so they create the money out. They don't actually have it. Okay, so they lend out 900,000 out of that million that they've got deposited. Now that 900,000 shows up as a positive in their balance sheet. So because they've got an extra 900,000 that's owed to them, plus the interest, of course, they can lend out 90% of that. So you see, it goes on and they can create money as much as they want. That's why they say, okay, we're putting up interest rates, which should cut down borrowing, which means less money is being created. You understand? So in effect, infinite amounts of money can be created. Now, the more money that's created, it borrows the value of that money, the new money that's being created. It borrows that money from money that's already in circulation, which means the value of your money is now worth less. Mm-hmm. So if your money is now worth less, it takes more of those dollars or pounds or wherever you are in the world to buy the same item. And because we had the shutdown in 2020 and 2021, that means there's less items that have been created, less things to buy, and more money supply, which means you have a hyperinflation situation. So the fact that money there's so much money in circulation creates huge problems. And this is all part of the money cycle that was how the whole Federal Reserve banking system was created on Jekyll Island. They created the Federal Reserve knowing that they'd have these boom and bust cycles and that they would benefit from them. So when you have the bust, the people with a lot of money who create the money can then, when people get wiped out because they lose their house or whatever, they then buy those for pennies on the dollar, and they can increase their asset base for nothing because people get wiped out by it. So these are built into the whole way that the banking system is set up. So we're heading into this latest bust cycle where everything has been hyperinflated. All the stock market's up to record highs, crypto market's up to record highs. Everything's hyperinflated, and they're about to pop this bubble. But normally when they do this, there's usually something to hide it behind, and it's usually a war, which is the standard, which is usually a war or a famine or something that they can hide it behind, which is why they're trying to hype up this war in Europe.
Yep.
And over here, because it's closer to us, our Prime Minister is now talking about sending British troops into Ukraine. Ukraine is not a NATO member. We have no correlation to them at all. We're sending billions of our taxpayer pounds. You're sending $60 billion over there. We've sent billions of our taxpayer money over there. Yep. And for what? For what? because Russia was warning the West not to encroach any further toward its territory, and they still did it. They're looking for an excuse to start a war. What's happening in China with Taiwan is exactly the same thing.
Yep.
They're
And
desperate to
wasn't
start a war.
Ukraine a very politically corrupt country anyway?
Yes.
Of course it is. Yeah. Well, in 2014, they had the Maidan Revolution, and at that time, Biden was in vice president, I believe, and with Obama, and he was in charge of Ukraine. Now, there was phone calls that have been released where Biden was talking to Zelensky, saying that don't ask for any more money from Trump because it could reveal things that we don't want to be revealed.
Right.
So there's a lot of corruption, a lot of money laundering that's gone on in Ukraine for decades and decades. And in fact, the who was before Zelensky, I can't think what his name was now, but anyway, they basically they removed the leader of Ukraine that wasn't fitting with their plan, and then Zelensky got put into place. But incidentally, but just before we go any further, Zelensky actually played a character of the president of Ukraine in a television show on Ukrainian television before he became president.
Right. I've heard that.
It's insane. It's insane. So. Yeah, that's the biggest thing that's facing us over here is the money, the whole money issue. Obviously, our prime minister is standing down because he's a joke. Everything that he told the people to do over here, he was doing exactly the opposite, having parties at the number 10, which is the equivalent of the White House. It's the whole thing, all the political games and one-upmanship is just ridiculous. So
right,
yeah, crazy times, and what's happening in the Netherlands as well. It's having spillover effects here. A lot of my subscribers on my channel are from the Netherlands. So anybody who's watching, hello. And they've been reporting back about things that are going on over there with the farmers being told that they have to now reduce their nitrogen, the nitrogen that they can use on their farms, and they're having to kill 30% of their livestock on their farms to meet World Economic Forum targets.
Wow.
It is vile. It is vile what's happening there.
Now, why would they have to do that?
Cow farts.
So I was actually listening to something the other day, and so they're talking about the climate change and the greenhouse gases and all these regulations that the United States has put into place, and it's like 6% of the land population. When you keep buying all these products from places that don't give a crap about it.
Yep.
And you keep buying things from China and from all the countries that just produce whatever they want.
Yeah.
So how if you're really all into it and you're really wanting to change, which I don't think it really matters. I think the world is in a cycle, and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
Boom. Yep.
So if you're really into it, then why don't you just stop imports from the countries that don't follow your rules?
Yeah,
because they can't.
Yeah. Well, if you think about in terms of what's happened over the past sort of 20, 30 years, especially, manufacturing has been taken out of America. It's been taken out of the UK. It's been taken out of
we tried to get it back.
Of course.
We almost had it back.
Yeah. Well, it is. And that's the issue, is that they think, okay, well, we've shipped all our manufacturing over to the third world, over to India, China, Vietnam, these less developed nations, even though if you've been to these countries less developed, I don't know, especially China. I don't think China's a third world nation. But they've shipped all the manufacturing out to these countries. And then they say, well, look how good we're doing. See, we've reduced our carbon emissions. Like, the carbon dioxide is not a pollutant. But we've reduced our carbon emissions. Aren't we good? And then, like you say, all they're doing is shipping the manufacturing away. So the workers in America, workers in this country are losing their jobs, losing industry over to different countries. But then they're still buying back those same products that they shipped out of the country in the first place. Like, okay, we're living in a closed ecosystem here, but because we're not producing the greenhouse gas, they are. That doesn't affect us. Like it's so stupid. It's unbelievably stupid, but that's the world we live in. It's run by these lunatics that.
Yeah, but the thought that you have to slaughter cattle because the manure is causing climate change. That's
well. Look, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You know, I talk about this a lot on my channel, and I get told I'm wrong a lot, but that's fine. I can handle that. If you look at, you know, because people like to point at science. Okay, this year in 2022, there's record ice in Antarctica. Record amount of sea ice. Right. Never had this much sea ice ever in history before, okay, in Antarctica. But we're told, if you go back to the 2009 movie, An Inconvenient Truth, he said that by 2013, all the Arctic and Antarctic ice would be gone and we'd be underwater.
Yeah.
Every single prediction that he made in that movie was wrong, incorrect. Every single one. And then Leonardo DiCaprio goes and makes his a climate documentary saying, oh, all this bad things are going to happen. Sea levels are going to rise because the polar ice caps are going to melt. Sea levels are going to rise. What does Leonardo DiCaprio do? Just after he's made that documentary, got an Academy Award for it. Oh, pat on the back, Leo, you're a hero. He goes and buys a beachfront property. That doesn't sound like the actions of someone who's worried about the sea levels rising. And Obama, when he left his presidency, him and Michael, they left the White House. Okay.
I say the same thing.
They left the White. That's not a woman. That's not a woman. Women don't have penises. I'm sorry. They don't. You can dress as a woman, but it doesn't make you a woman. So when they left the White House, this is the former president of the United States. You'd think that with all of his science advisors, he would be chorus and verse about everything that he was saying in his whole 2 terms as president about climate change. What did he do when he left the White House? He took $12 million and bought a Martha's Vineyard estate right on the water at Martha's Vineyard. Does that sound like the actions of someone who's worried about the sea levels rising? Of course it doesn't, because it's a lie.
Yeah.
You know, and if you want to look at the science, go to the Antarctic ice core samples. The ice core samples are done, so they drill down through the ice at Antarctica, and every layer they go down. So every year you get a deposit of snow and ice on the top of the snow and ice that's there. So as you drill down through that ice, you have thousands of years of history of snow and ice recording what was in the atmosphere. If there was ash in the atmosphere, maybe a volcano had erupted or something.
Tells you about all of its catastrophes too.
Exactly. And they've gone back thousands of years. And what they've found in history is that there's many, many times in our historical record that there's been higher concentrations of methane. There's been higher concentrations of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, and the temperature has been cooler.
Yeah.
So this whole idea of the global warming through the trapped greenhouse gases is preposterous. And now they're talking about putting a bubble in space to reflect
I've seen
the sun.
that too.
Yep. Much like in the Matrix. Oh, they thought it would be a good idea to scorch the sky.
Yeah.
You know, it is. Right. It's everything out of their mouth. You know when politicians are lying because their mouths are moving. I mean, that's
so on a different matter, what do you know about the collider, Chris?
I
love that.
Oh, golly.
Love the science behind that. It's interesting.
Okay. So there's so many things. There's so many stories about this thing. It's unbelievable. So there's a statue out the front of CERN.
Right.
Yeah, that is the statue of I can't think. Hindu god of destruction.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What is the name? What is the name? My wife would know. She's not down here.
The only thing I can think of is Kali Ma.
I can't think of the name.
But anyway, I know what you're talking about.
So
it's got swords in multiple hands. And
you got Shiva, and that's the only one I know.
Shiva, isn't it? Shiva.
I think it's
Shiva
Shiva.
was the 6-armed.
But she had blades and stuff. She was war.
God of destruction.
That's God of destruction. You got the right one, bud.
So the funny thing about this whole thing is that they say, okay, we're speeding up a proton and we're going to shoot it around this ring, and we're going to shoot it, near the speed of light. We're going to collide it into another one, and that's going to be able to tell us what happened at the Big Bang. and we're looking for a particular particle. Do you remember what that particle was called? The Higgs boson, right? Higgs boson particle, and the other name that they give it is the God particle.
God particle, yeah.
Yeah. Right. So they're looking for the God particle. So basically what they're trying to do is disprove God by saying, no, there is no God. There's a particle that's there. That's the responsibility. That's the responsibility of that particle was for all of creation. Creation came from nothing. There's so many stories about what it is and what it does and how it works, but the one that I lean towards is it's a way of opening a portal to a different dimension. That's the one I like.
Right.
And this whole idea of the Mandela effect.
Yep.
People talk about the Mandela effect actually being triggered by the first time that they turned on the collider. So
right.
I don't know.
Here's the interesting thing too. Have you seen the new images for the new telescope that's up there that's floating around? Have you seen that? Have you seen that?
It's amazing that we can take a photograph from billions of light years away.
I know.
Perfect. And then we can't have a good CCTV camera of the person placing the bombs at the DNC and the RNC National Headquarters.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, you can take a picture of space, but you can't find a laptop. What?
Yeah. That whole laptop thing I find astounding. I mean, look, the guy's a mess. We all know he's a mess, right?
Mm-hmm.
But who would drop off a laptop with that kind of incriminating evidence at some random Mac shop and then never go and pick it up?
That just sounds ridiculous.
Well, actually, the guy turned it in.
Well, he turned it in after it wasn't picked up, because what he did was he repaired the thing, and he constantly, I've been all over this story, all backwards and forwards. That he turned it in, and he never came back to pick it up. So he was emailing, phone calling, never got a response to any of the messages. There was none of the phone calls. And then at that point, he said, "Okay, I'm keeping this thing," and then opened it to have a look at what was on there, and saw it was on there, and then gave it to the FBI.
Right.
Then the FBI did nothing with it, and so it was Russian disinformation. Everything's Russia. Everything's Russia.
Yeah.
And it astounds me that people still believe this lie that everything is Putin. I mean, look, we all know that Putin's not a good guy. I'm not rooting for Putin. But in the whole scheme of what's going on in the world right now, even bad people can do good things. So the fact that Russia's backing their currency by gold is it's a slap in the face to the world central banks. So it's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I did a video about it a couple of videos back.
Excellent.
Where I spoke about, if even people that I completely disagree with, if we're on the same path on towards a shared goal, then even the people that I completely disagree with about every other subject, they are then my friend if they're the enemy of my enemy. So while Putin is not a good guy and there's a lot he's done wrong, if we share the same interest that we both want the destruction of the central banking institutions in the world and the families who run them, then I will stand aligned with him on that particular subject. So,
right.
Yeah. Yeah. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
See, John, see why I like Chris. Awesome.
Yeah. So it is. I mean, the world's crazy at the moment, and it's deliberately crazy because it's as we go down this path of the crazier it gets, the more people wake up and say, "Hold on a minute, what's going on here?"
What's going on?
And as more people wake up, they have to resort to even crazier tactics to try and put people back to sleep, which wakes even more people up. And then they go, "Hold on a minute."
Distraction after distraction after distraction after distraction. What's going on here? What's really happening? I mean, me and my honey say that all the time. You can only believe like 1% of the news of what's going on, and you got to piece it all together. Okay, what's the truth? What's really going on?
Well, it's much like in V for Vendetta. You've seen that movie, obviously. In V for Vendetta, when they're all sitting around the TV and he says that, the terrorist V has been killed, and they're all sitting at the TV going, bollocks.
Yep.
That's where we are right now. People are watching the news and going, that doesn't make any sense. That's just crazy. Everything that comes out of Brandon's mouth, I mean, my God. I mean, our Prime Minister here is a joke. I mean, is a complete joke. The guy's a buffoon. But your guy, Brandon, is just something else. I mean, it is unbelievable.
I can't disagree with you.
Yeah. But when I say it to Americans, they get really defensive. Oh, how can you say that about my country? Like, it's not you. Yeah. It's not you. I'm not referring to you. It's the leadership of each country of this world right now is revealing themselves to be nothing to do with the people. They are about an agenda that has nothing to do with us. Yeah.
Yep.
No, go ahead, John.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just agreeing.
Yeah, exactly. There was I also like your, I know you got a little heat on it, but I still enjoyed it because I got it. But the one where you did, and me and John have talked about this multiple times about masculine.
About what?
Masculine, being a man.
Toxic masculinity.
Yeah. Oh, that and the other one, which was gender bender. That was the other one.
Gender bender. It's amazing though.
Subjects.
Completely. But the thing I find amazing is people who purport to know me, people that I've known for a long time, that I've been, part of my circle of influence. And they know who I am. They know what I've done. They know where I've been. I've been to Africa and helped people set up businesses. Been there.
Sure.
Went to Nigeria. Went there myself. I've got friends from all over the world. I've opened halal restaurants here in the UK. I mean, it is. I take everyone as they come. I don't cut anybody out because of the color of their skin, their sexual identity. I don't care. I take people as they come to me. So,
John?
Huh?
Do you want me to play that, John?
No, you can. I pulled it off of YouTube. So
okay, hold on.
But don't do it full screen. Do it with us here.
No.
All right.
Because this was actually really funny.
This is not about freedom or personal choice.
And then it rolls into They Live. So
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, but the whole thing about They Live, and I don't want to. But yeah, I mean, everything he sees, and if you haven't seen They Live,
you gotta watch it. Excellent.
That is definitely a movie to watch, and of course it had Roddy Piper in it, which is
Roddy Piper. I mean, how far wrong can you go with Roddy Piper?
But everything he looks at.
Yeah, look at that. No independence.
Yeah.
Look at that. Consume.
Work 8 hours, sleep 8 hours, play 8 hours, conform, stay asleep, watch
TV. Yeah. Such a good, excellent lesson right there. If just people would notice it.
Yeah. And it got a lot of flack.
Oh yeah, it did. Big time.
So
well, it is. It is. I see it every day. I'm punching people in the face trying to get to put the glasses on. No, just put the glasses on. I'm not putting the glasses on.
That's how you end up with the world's longest fight scene.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. In the alleyway, beat the shit out of it. It's so good. It's one of my favorite movies. I absolutely adore it. It's brilliant. But the 80s was the best for movies. I mean, over the top cheesy.
Yep.
Yeah, Red Dawn. Yep. Revenge of the Nerds. All that kind of stuff was just so much fun.
So now, even Red Dawn
nonsense nowadays.
Even Red Dawn, as far-fetched as we thought it was.
Yeah.
It's still, I mean, there's a lot of people, even, I remember watching Red Dawn and just going, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, if that happened, we'd take to the hills and
big time,
which is why a lot of invasions have never happened here.
The other good show too, if you guys haven't seen that one, that was Man in the High Castle. Definite must watch.
I was watching that because you told me to.
Definite must watch.
Yeah.
It's about a lot of things that are going on now, and it resonates like big time.
Yeah, and the fact that it's to do with Nazis as well. Nazis running.
Oh yeah, and the Japanese.
Yeah.
And the Japanese.
Yeah.
So, yep, it's very good.
Now, in Ukraine, have you heard that there was a pretty significant Nazi presence there?
Yes, well, that's where the Nazi movement started.
Yeah.
I mean, and wasn't that the area that Putin was trying to reclaim?
Yes. Well, it's oh God, how far back do we want to go? So everything that I've seen, read, heard, points to if you go back to ancient Babylonia, that the baby eaters in Babylonia left and were forced out, and they went up through Europe and they actually settled in what is now sort of Russia, Ukraine area, and they were driven out by the Tsars, and that was the Tsars. The Bolshevik Revolution was these same people coming back to oust the Tsars because they pushed them out of their what they said was their homeland.
Right.
Then there's the 13 families that spread out across the world that became the central banking families and the central banking institutions. So Ukraine, well, the one that started the whole thing was actually Kazakhstan. Have you had a look at the architecture of Kazakhstan?
Yeah.
Pull up a few images of Kazakhstan. Just say Kazakhstan architecture and put some of those images on the screen. See what you think of those. It's going to blow your mind. Kazakhstan. It is. Yeah. You're going to love this.
Those are some...
share it, John. I'll share it up.
Well, I'm trying to think of which one to show.
But it all started in Kazakhstan. The most recent of all this started in Kazakhstan. Do you remember when Kazakhstan fell? Yeah, there's a pyramid somewhere as well. If you find the pyramid.
What?
Yeah, this is Kazakhstan. There's a pyramid. There
Wow.
you go. There's more than one of those, and the one next to that as well. That one. It's so
wow.
It's just so different. It's so odd. So Kazakhstan actually fell before. There's the other pyramid. I mean, it's so bizarre. It's and if you were to look at that, doesn't that look like a Tesla tower to you?
Which one?
The image is the main one on the screen there.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Time.
So it is what we have to go back to is before this whole Ukraine incident happened, Kazakhstan actually fell and the people were raiding the central banks of the country. Do you recall that?
I remember hearing that, yeah.
So I did a video about it and I said people are dismissing Kazakhstan like it's nothing because all we know of Kazakhstan is what Borat did. I'm from Kazakhstan, where the national pastime is rape. It's so people thought that Kazakhstan was some backwater nothing place, but now you see it's not. So when Kazakhstan fell, that was the sort of the genesis of what's happening now in Ukraine, because what was happening in Ukraine was a massive money laundering operation, and these bio labs or bioweapons labs or whatever you want to call them that have been operated by the Pentagon in Ukraine because they can't do it on national soil in the US.
Right.
So there was a lot of things going on. What was the origin of this latest thing that's been going around in the world? What was the origin of that? We all thought it was China, right?
China, yeah.
Yeah, but where did it come from? Where was it created?
North Carolina.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then it went via there to Ukraine.
And less than an hour from me here.
Yeah, went via Ukraine to China. So
created here by Chinese students.
Yes, but they there's a funny thing that you can't patent something that occurs naturally in nature. But a patent exists for that very thing that we've been told was around, and it just came from a bat in China 2 years ago.
Right.
So how can you hold a patent on something that occurs naturally? You can't patent something that occurs naturally. So
how did you already have the patent before it was made?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing I keep on coming back to everything started was because of the test. Oh, people are testing positive. Test. Everyone was pushing tests. The guy who invented the technology, the PCR, a guy called Kerry Mullis, he said publicly, many interviews, the PCR test should never be used to diagnose anything because you could find anything you wanted in a PCR by cycling it multiple times. So basically what you're doing is you're taking a sample, a swab sample from someone's cheek or wherever, and then you put that into a machine and you cycle it. So you're increasing the viral load, so to a point where you can see what's in it. But if you cycle it enough, you can produce anything. You can find anything you want. So he said a PCR should never be used to diagnose anything. That's the guy who created it.
Right.
And all this started because, we're PCR test, PCR. Kerry Mullis died not long before everything kicked off. Do you know that? And he had a very public spat with one Fauci, Anthony Fauci, from the 80s. That's to do with AIDS. So, there's a lot more going on than people are privy to. And it's like, obviously I'm way down the conspiracy rabbit hole, but, when you start to put the pieces together, then it none of it makes any sense. Well, it does make sense. It's all about control.
It makes sense, but it's like, oh, really? It's on right underneath their nose.
Yeah. Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to turn the light on and it's getting a bit dark here. 1 moment.
He's in the Matrix.
You see it
coming through the screen. That was cool.
I don't even see the code anymore. All I see is blonde, brunette, redhead. Yeah. So yeah, it is. It's very, very curious, and because I'm in so many different things. I mean, lots of groups. I've looked at New York Times.
Also, the thing about we kind of delved with it last night a little bit. And just real quick, if you guys are catching us on the rewind and you're watching this right now, I really appreciate everybody in here. We got Deuce in here. We have just another monkey.
Hey, Deuce.
Fire
monkey.
We say thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. We appreciate the support. All the links for John, myself, and Chris are down below. Please go check them out. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. We much appreciate it. Thank you very much. Now let's continue. Now we delved with it a little bit, and I was trying to get more into it. We'll get into the other subject depending on how much time you have.
Yeah.
But it was about why haven't we been back to the moon yet? What was your answer on that? Because a lot of people have asked that question. It's like, why haven't we been back to the moon yet?
Well, I asked that very question. I've had a NASA engineer, a guy called Michael, on my channel 3 times. He's a great guy. We got along really well. He's a really nice guy. We got along great. And he first contacted me when I first did a talk about us never going back to the moon. And his response was that it's not politically expedient because there's nothing there for us to do. So that's the way people's perception of going back to the moon was. There's no political fire behind it anymore. There's nothing there. But I don't think we ever went in the first place.
What about the cheese?
What about Christoph, like in the Truman Show? He must be up there.
Yeah.
But I don't think we ever went. I personally.
Right.
And there's, if you have a look at, if you go back to the 50s when the Russians were the first satellite, the first monkey, the first man in space.
Yep.
But yet America leapfrogged everybody else.
Yep.
And then went to the moon in '69, and we couldn't recreate it ever again after that. But we're on Mars apparently, and there's a Tesla floating somewhere between here and Mars. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't believe any of it. I really don't. Yusuf. Good boy. Expect nothing.
Well, no astronaut would do that.
No. Right thinking person would. But yeah, I'm very dubious. I've said it multiple times. I actually think we're living in a simulation. I do. I think this is I'm very dubious as to whether this is real or whether this is simulation. And I say, let me do a test for you right now. Okay, look around your rooms. Look around your rooms. Right, everything in it, including you, started out as a thought in someone's mind. So if thoughts can influence the physical reality we experience, how real is it?
I mean, I think the thought in my dad's mind was I just got paid. So.
Yeah. I mean, look, I have no idea. That's my best guess. You know, I watched the movie called The Secret the other day. I've seen it before.
I'm gonna watch it. Have
a look at it. It's really interesting. It really is. It's and it is all about the law of attraction. That you attract that which you think about most. So if you're concentrating on debt and bills and worry and fear and doubt, that's what you tend to see more in your life. And it's backed up by, there's lots of science behind it. So basically, if you're thinking about buying a Dalmatian, okay, a Dalmatian dog, right? All of a sudden, you'll see Dalmatians everywhere. Not because there's more Dalmatians, but because you've programmed your subconscious to look for that thing because that's what you want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're programming yourself to look for things that you don't want, because your mind can't distinguish don't and do. It's just if you're thinking about debt, worry, fear, doubt, all that kind of negativity, that's all you're going to see because that's what you're programming your mind to see.
Right.
So it's all about the programming and what are we programming ourselves, or what are we being programmed to see? And if we're being programmed, or we can program ourselves, then I think we inhabit a fully functional simulation that we can alter with our thoughts.
Wow.
So
it's true.
Maybe. Or maybe I'm just crazy.
No, if you think about it. Yeah, if you think about it. Yeah, they're always listening. Always listening. I've done that experiment multiple times where I've turned off the phone, turned everything off, and said me and the Queen have done this experiment, and say something like dog collar. What'd you say, baby? Slip and slide. I'm not kidding you.
Slide.
Slip and slide. We said it a couple of times.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, when we turned everything back on, a couple hours later, advertisements for slip and slides.
Yeah.
So it's like, really?
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and the phones weren't even in the room.
Yeah.
Right? There was no television, no nothing in the room. And she mentioned sex addiction. Right? She was part of a conversation that we had. And then later on, I came back, and on Facebook, there was an advert, "Do you require help for a sex addiction?" I was like, what? I don't need help for that. I'm fine, thanks. Yeah.
Listen, that's funny. Yeah, that's all we have to say is, I see a House of Secrets 92 multiple times, and we'll start seeing it. I'm not kidding you. It's a good comic too. Awesome.
Yeah.
Just wish it into your life and it'll come. And it's weird. I've been getting lucky lately on books all of a sudden. Really strange.
But all the things, I'm just some guy from a small town in West Australia. I don't come from parents who are connected to anyone. They're not wealthy. I mean, my mum lives in my house,
Sure.
So I'm no one. And yet the things that I've managed to do in my life are preposterous. They are completely ridiculous. I set a world record. I was invited by a billionaire to go to Switzerland to cook for his son's wedding. I mean, the things that I've done in my life are ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. And it's not because I'm anyone special. I'm just an average guy that put it out there that I wanted to do things. And I've said yes to opportunities. And the more you open yourself up to these things, the more these things come to you. And it's like, if you're thinking about a comic book that you want, or whatever it is that you want, as long as you've got a good emotion attached to it, and it's a positive thing to you, then you will attract either that thing to you or an opportunity for you to get that thing,
Yep.
So
and really in the end, it's just a thing.
Of course it is.
Really, in the end, it's expensive paper, but
But it's my paper.
Does it make you happy? Does it make you
does
happy?
make me happy. Yeah.
Then what's
And a
wrong
lot
with
of
that?
history there.
Then
But
what's wrong with that? You know,
nothing.
yeah.
Not
As long as you're not damaging anyone else, and it's
Exactly
making
right.
you happy,
Yep,
then I think that's a good thing.
it is.
As long as you're
Absolutely.
not taking it from someone else.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Well, sometimes if you get a good deal, I mean, it feels like you're stealing from them. I mean,
Oh, man. True.
You just
True.
find G's storage locker and just take it.
I don't think I've got a truck big enough for
No,
that.
that's not happening. It'll be like a cartoon. Submachine guns will come out of the ground.
Some from the roof.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
What else was it? There was I mean, because if you look at like example history, and you've talked about it multiple times. I love the stuff where you've talked about Tesla, talked about our energy source, those kind of things. And you guys out there in the community that are watching this now or watch this on the rewind, Chris is a very interesting individual. And I jive with him. Check out his videos, check out his older videos, and you'll probably learn something, and then you'll also question it yourself. It's very interesting. And all we want you to do is use this.
Are they pushing the electric cars on you all?
Yeah.
Well, yes. I mean, look, the whole electricity thing, I don't think it's a terrible thing, but I think the way we generate our electricity is a terrible thing. You know, like I've heard from multiple different sources, oh, we have to go nuclear. Nuclear is a steam engine. That's what it is. You know, it's all they're using is that you're using a more exotic fuel source to boil the water to create steam. The steam drives the turbine that generates electricity. And I mean, look, it's if you think in terms of how electricity is generated, I mean, it's the mechanism is all you're doing is you're turning you're spinning a magnet inside copper wire that generates an electrical charge. That's what a generator is. Or you do like an alternator in your car.
Mm-hmm.
The alternator that charges your battery is a generator. Right. And that is, it's generated electricity by the fan belt spinning the thing that's in the middle of your alternator in your car that has a magnet on the end of it that spins inside coiled copper wire that's inside your alternator that gives off electrical charge that charges your car battery. That's what an alternator is. It's a generator under your hood.
Sure.
Now, you can use anything to drive a turbine. Anything. You could have a water wheel going in a river. You could have whirlpools. You could have, there's so many different things. You could, if you really wanted to go with a steam engine, why not those countries on Earth that have geysers, that have volcanoes? Why aren't they being used? You know, there's so many ways. But then I did a video a long time ago, a year and a half at least, about the future is bright. And I brought it up when I spoke to the NASA engineer as well. There's 3 patents that were released in January of 2020. 3 patents that were released in January of 2020. All of them come from the US Navy, a guy called Paiz, P-A-I-Z. So the first one was a electricity generation device the size of a small car. It produces the same amount of electricity that a nuclear power station does in a year in a day, right? And it uses no fuel. It's called a 0-point energy generation device, and it literally generates electricity through magnetism that's all around us, much like Tesla spoke about 100 years ago. Right. So 0-point energy exists. They have working patents, and that patent was released January of 2020. Okay. So that's the first patent. The second one was a room temperature superconductor. So there's no point having all that electricity if you can't move it from A to B. Okay. Right. So room temperature superconductor. So you can generate the electricity with the electricity generation device, and then you can move it from A to B without any loss of that electricity through the room temperature superconductor. So it doesn't heat, so you're not losing electricity through heat or light. Okay. So you have the electricity generation, you have a room temperature superconductor, and the third one was a triangular shaped anti-gravity flying machine. So
Yep.
combine all those three together, and you've got an anti-gravity flying machine with its own power source. That's an infinite amount of power. Right. So those three patents were released in January of 2020. Okay. That was the US Navy owned those patents. Okay. So we have the electricity generation right now. We have it. It's available. We could use it tomorrow. We could set up these systems all around the world, and then using Tesla's technology of having the Tesla towers where you can wirelessly send electricity through the air anywhere in the world, and people be able to use it for free. We have that technology right now.
Right.
We've had that technology for 100 years. 100 years ago, they had electric cars and scooters all over the streets around the world, and then they stopped using it. Why is that?
Yep.
Because the oil companies and these oil barons, they control the flow of the money and the energy of the world. The energy is the key to everything. So we're going through that. They're talking about this transition, and we're going to transition to clean. I mean, fossil fuels. I mean, the whole idea that the oil came from fossilized dinosaurs is ridiculous, because it's so many people who work in the oil industry have seen wells that run dry and then they fill back up again. How is that possible if it came from a fossil fuel source that's depleted and it's going to run? If you remember back in the 70s, they said all the oil was going to run out by the 80s. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. But here we are, and they're finding new oils all over the place. It's I mean, everything. We should have stopped with steam cars. I like it. But we have the electricity, we have the technology, but we don't have the people in power that want to see us thrive. They all want us to be living in a class system where they're the kings and queens and we're the serfs. We're here to do the menial jobs that they don't want to.
Yeah,
do
we're
until
the
they can get the robots operational.
We're the working ants.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Where they when they had the G7 here during the whole thing that was going on the last couple of years, they had the G7 meeting here down in Cornwall, and you had the world leaders that flew in from around the world. Right, they flew in from around the world, not tested, of course. They flew in, and they were shaking each other's hands and giving each other hugs. And the only people that had to wear masks and confirm that they were, had the product were the service staff. the peons, you lowly scum, you have to serve us. So
right.
Yeah. So it is. I mean, when you see it, you see it, and if you can't see it, well, then you can't see it. It's and all the things that are right there for people to see, but most people don't want to see that. Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, and that's what I try and do is I try and as delicately as I can inject this kind of viewpoint into the world and say, well, look at this. Have you considered this? Have a look at this, and I
question
can back it up. Yeah, I can back it up with. There's no point people pointing to people to things, because then you're doing the work for them. People actually have to go out and make an effort themselves, because what I've learned. How much do you remember from school, gentlemen? How much do you remember from when you were back in school?
Oh, I remember quite a bit. I had 2 history classes. I had 2 science classes.
Yeah.
My history classes were funny.
But you enjoyed it. You enjoyed it. You took something from it.
This is the interesting. When I was going to school, the one was a military history teacher.
Yeah.
So we learned about military and war, the art of war. And the other history teacher was a hippie. You learned total opposite. Yeah, and we would have these debates, and I literally would set up these debates with both teachers in the room and have the kids ask questions. So I've been doing this ever since I was a kid, asking questions, and it got really interesting. But it made us question things, and they don't do that anymore. They don't do stuff like that anymore.
They don't expect you to question anything. They want you to sit down, listen, and shut up.
I mean, I got kicked out of Catholic school. I used to go to a private school when I was a kid. I was like 10, 12, 10, something like that. My mom was forcing me to go to Catholic private school, and I was fighting with the nuns. I was getting smacked and beat all the time because I would ask questions and they could never answer them from my understanding.
Yeah.
As a kid, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And I would get in trouble, put in a corner, they'd throw me in a closet because I was such a rebellious little turd. But
that sounds a lot like we were brothers in school. I had the same.
Oh my goodness. And I've always been the same thing when it comes to, everybody's got their thing. They believe what they want to believe, and it's all good. All the power to you. I don't judge these people for believing what they believe, and that's awesome. But I'm still questioning to this day about everything that goes on. Everything. I want it to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, I mean, here, you're going to like this, Chris. Give me 1 second. It's on my desk.
Yeah. Love it.
Who knows what it's going to bring back?
This is how much of a nerd.
Be anything.
No, I'm such a nerd. I am now on page 479. I love this book.
Yeah.
I got this from a good friend of mine. This is called Here we go. The Soldier of Giants by Stephen Hawkins.
Yeah.
Basically, Stephen Hawkins going through all of our famous philosophers, scientists, stuff like that, and he's narrating all the things and discoveries that they've done so far.
Yeah.
And things that have not changed and why.
Yeah.
And it's basically a big question book. This book, oh my goodness, it's so good. But yeah, that's the kind of nerd I read.
Here's the thing that I've found: you retain more stuff, you retain more information from the things that interest you.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm going to say to people, you need to go and look at this, this, and this, and this, and this, then how is it of interest to them? They have to go and do the work themselves, and you can't tell people. You can guide them in a way, but they have to go and do the work themselves, because otherwise they're not going to retain that information anyway.
Right.
And I get kicked out of recess because I don't play.
That was awesome. Relaxing by the pool. Yay.
So like where they had you read whatever book the teacher wanted you to read because it was something that interested her.
Yeah.
Like I never got to read The Hobbit when I was in school, even though that was the type of book that I would read.
Yeah. Great book.
Yeah. Even though it was a classic, they'd be like, "Oh no, we don't want to do that one." Yeah. Well, I want you to read about this lady who lived in the backwoods of wherever, and it's like, why do I care?
Have you read Catcher in the Rye?
Oh yeah. Yep.
I don't get it.
Nope.
I don't get it.
Yeah, twice.
And people tell me you're just too stupid to understand it, and I'm like, maybe. No. So explain it to me. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Maybe I am too stupid. Maybe I should have gone to university, but I don't get it. I really don't. And that's being hailed as like the book that you have to read in your lifetime. I read it and I was I don't get it.
Love it.
But
okay, I'm confused. Is it Cookie's birthday today, or is he saying it's Harry Potter's birthday today?
I think it's both.
Okay, big shout out to Cookie. Gotta say it. Happy birthday, Cookie. Happy birthday to you. I hope you're having a wonderful day.
Birthday.
Yeah. Okay. Man, it's everybody's birthday this week. I can't believe it. It was Travis' birthday Friday. My buddy John, someone else's birthday today, and Monday. All people I know. Wow.
Mine's come up in 2 weeks.
Is it?
Yeah.
You're gonna be what? 51?
50.
I knew you were gonna be 50.
Almost there.
Yeah. Well, it's I had many doctors in my youth tell me I wouldn't make it to 40, so I outlived them.
I'm going on my 56th year, so
well done, bravo, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
90% done. G, you're 90% done.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, people ask me if I'm having a midlife crisis, and I'm like, I'm not having a midlife crisis.
No, that was 20 years ago.
I'm not even close to midlife yet. I'll be midlife when I get to maybe 100. I'm gonna outlive everybody just to piss them off. Yeah.
No, I want to live. My grandfather lived to be 94.
Right.
Wow. 93, 94. He retired about the time I was born.
Wow.
And he retired from a school district in Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
He was what started off to be the typewriter repair guy.
Oh, wow.
And then he became the head of maintenance for the school district.
Wow.
Right.
He drew retirement for over 40 years from Northern Virginia.
Really?
From the county. And I know they had to be looking at their papers going, who is this guy? My uncle told me, he said, look, he said, your grandfather is getting a $7,000 check every month.
Wow.
And his bills are $800.
Yeah.
So yeah, he doesn't even know what he has coming in, and he doesn't, he doesn't live like that. He never did. I think he still wore the same clothes I remember him in when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Corduroy pants and just slacks and that thin, silky looking button up shirt.
Yeah.
Nothing ever changed.
Yep. But he was happy.
There's a client. My wife works in aged care, so she goes to elderly people's homes and cares for them that they don't have family, they don't have anyone around to care for them. So sometimes she has to make them breakfast or whatever it is that she has to do for them. So there's one guy that she was caring for, and he makes hand drawn maps, right, of walking trails and things like that, and he's done it his whole life. Right.
Photographer.
Yeah, well, yeah, but he's like he used to ride his bike. He's walked every trail. He knows the area like the back of his hand, and he rode his bike from here. We live about 90 miles, or 130 140 kilometers away from London, and he used to ride his bike to London and back. Like this is not one of these new bikes. This is like but that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like he saves all of his tin foil. He's got his bathing water goes into a tank that he waters the plants from. You know what I mean? And this is people who've lived through these times where their times were tough. They maybe had a bit of lard and some bread. That was their beef dripping. That was their food. So they know how to just live on the bare minimum. And then it's we could take
talking about food really quick. Do you know what the highest taxed food is item?
Probably corn.
Nope.
No
bread.
Idea. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me.
Bread.
Yeah. Well, it's not surprising. It all comes from Ukraine. That's why. Everything comes from Ukraine. I had no idea. I had no idea. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, we make our own. We make our own bread. We bought many years ago. We bought a bread maker.
Yeah. I don't even need that, Chris. You can make it.
I know, but I mean, the amount of time I have available to do things is so minimal.
Like
last I have every Monday off, and last Monday I had so much to do. I'm building a chicken run, and we're getting some chickens this week. I bought a worm farm so we could start, having the worms making compost for us for our garden. Sure. So there's always 1,000 projects going on, but I promised the kids that we'd make sushi. So last Monday we cooked the rice. I explained that sushi is based on rice. It's all about rice. And then we made sushi. So we
bringing back nightmares, Chris, of my cooking experience with a Japanese sushi chef that had to teach me and another chef how to make sushi, how to make the rice correctly. I failed.
It's all right.
Failed multiple times, and he would get pissed.
Yeah.
So I know what that's all about. I know how to make it now.
Yeah. I still fail on rice sometimes. I was like,
never fail on my rice. You can ask the wife. I can cook it in the pot. Who needs a steamer? Just need the timing.
I've got a perfect rice cooker. The rice cooker, you just you wash the rice, put it in the rice cooker, put the exact amount of water, and it turns off when it's ready. It's awesome. It's amazing.
Have a good day, Cookie. Have a wonderful day, brother.
See you, Cookie.
See you soon. But that's the thing is, we bought a bread cooker many years ago, and we started using it, and then we've gone back to it now. So like when we run out of bread, we have our organic flour, our organic bread flour.
Right.
And we put that overnight so that in the morning when we get up, there's fresh bread ready for the morning. There's nothing better than waking up the smell of fresh bread in the house.
That's my downfall. You can ask the wife. She gets mad at me because I have to have bread with everything I eat. It's like spaghetti, mashed potatoes. She goes, all that extra starch. I go, I like my bread.
Yeah,
that's just me.
And now I'm laying off of bread and gonna have pizza with cauliflower crust.
You're gonna have what? What was it?
Cauliflower crust. Yeah, it's
not actually
bad,
really good.
It's not bad.
It's pretty good.
All right,
it's actually really good.
I haven't tried that one, but we've just we've got our garden in our backyard. I wish I could show you a picture. It's not going to show on the screen here. We pulled out our first cauliflower the other day, and it was massive bloody thing, beautiful. Really huge. So the wife has taken all the cauliflowers out now, chopped them up, blanched them, froze them so that we've got those for the winter time.
Yep, excellent.
We've got Swedes coming up now. We've got parsnips growing. We've harvested all the broccoli, so it's there's a lot going on.
Okay, so it's an hour and 60 minutes. I'm going to give you some time here to tell the people about yourself and your mission of what you are trying to do. Again, people that are catching this on the rewind.
All right.
And tell them about you. I want you back on the show with me and John, and we'll probably get onto a subject this time. Now that people know who you are, I just want more people to know who you are, Chris.
Well, so, it is. It's all I'm trying to do is share a way of looking at the world that doesn't that isn't the main way that the world is being projected to us all.
Right.
Sort of you going like the little Toto in the Wizard of Oz. Pull back the curtain and have a look at something that runs parallel to the way that most people think about how the world works. So that's all I'm trying to do is trying to give a different perspective on how things are based on everything I've seen, read, heard, and try and form that into a coalesce into a picture that makes sense.
There you go. John, did you have any more questions or anything? You're good?
I'm good. Looking forward to having you back.
Excellent. I knew John would love you.
It's been awesome being here, James. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Chris, it was a pleasure. Stick around. Don't go anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere.
Excellent. John, you want to tell?
No, I'm good.
You're good, bud? Okay. Trying to see here. So, other than coming back next Sunday, I appreciate everybody that showed up tonight for me and John and Chris. Wonderful guest. Check out all the links down below in the description. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and share us out, please. We just hit 100. Yay! So thank you so much, community. We really appreciate it. Me and John really appreciate it big time. Don't forget to check out John's channel as well. Check out my Nerdy Collective, Comic Book G-Spot, every Saturday at midnight. The only late night show you should be watching.
It's definitely. I never watch it. So.
He watches it.
Because you know why? Because it's at midnight.
Yeah, well, you should rewind. I know you watch the rewind. Anyway, thank you very much, guys. And thank you so much, community. Really appreciate it. Peace, love, blessed be. See you next week.